Hi guys, Jessie here. No world connected dots on Jessie's POV tonight. In fact, I'm dropping a very special episode of Coffee Shop. Why? I know all my coffee shop listeners don't listen to POV and vice versa. This episode is called How the Bleep Did You Find Me? It's a private detective and how she used Facebook and other social media to find people she needs to speak with. I thought in light of all the Facebook chaos and security breaches, it was important for all of you to hear. Take care, and I'll catch you folks on Monday with a fresh episode of Jessie's POV. You can always follow me on Twitter at Radio Host Jessie. Take care, friends.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk, or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
Sometimes we need to slow down and remember the simple pleasures in life. Good coffee, good books, and good company. Come on in. Take a seat. The coffee's just been brewed. Let's see who we have in the coffee shop today. Oh, what a wonderful day in the coffee shop. And let's see who I can find to talk books and writing. I think we want a non-fiction book today. Judi Sheeks, how are you doing?
Hey, Jess, how are you?
I'm doing great, and you got a book on the table. How the bleep did you find me?
I do indeed. My semi-best-selling book, available now on Amazon. Am I allowed to promo that frequently and often?
Oh, of course you are. And at the end of the episode, I'll give you a chance to give out all your social media information and to promo your book one more time.
Awesome.
All right, so tell me about How the Bleep Did You Find Me? What inspired you to write it?
Well, I have been a private investigator for close to a quarter of a century now. My specialty is finding people. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, one of my clients was marveling at how I was able to locate a witness that nobody else could find. And basically that witness, I found them through tracking them on social media. The client said, "Oh my gosh, you're incredible." And I said, it's a good thing that nobody has written a book on how to keep people like me from finding them. And a light bulb went off, and I thought, I should write a book. So I did. And here I am.
Well, I think that sounds fantastic. And personally, I do believe I do a half-decent job of covering my trail. Because if you read my bio, you know that Jessie is a pseudonym. So did you try and chase Jessie down?
No, I normally don't unless somebody dares me. And you didn't dare me, smart girl. One of my Facebook friends, as a matter of fact, I had posted a little blurb about the book, and he commented, "I bet you can't find me." And I typed back, "Is that a dare?" And he said yes. Now, mind you, I was sitting in my recliner at the time, not on the computer, not using any of my fancy locate people sites. I had both dachshunds on my lap, and I was on my iPhone, and I Googled him. And within 5 minutes, I send him a direct message with his address, his full name, his date of birth, the bar he goes to every Friday, and his favorite restaurant. And always the smarty pants, he messaged me back and said, "What, no phone call?" So I dialed his phone number.
Score?
Score.
No, I didn't dare you, but I think I did a pretty good job of segregating Jesse from my real identity. And for those of you wondering why I use for lack of a term, a stage name, I do it because my first husband was United States Special Forces, and my information was put out by ISIS not once, but twice with a kill order. Think that's a pretty good reason there, Judi?
I think that's more than wise. And that is kind of the overarching theme of the book. You don't really have to have a kill order from ISIS, but in this day and age, there are way too many people who are more than willing to, dox you. There are whack-doodles everywhere who would show up at your door in the middle of the night, and a lot of people don't take what I think are just very simple precautions to make sure that you don't have a bunny boiler show up at your back door at midnight on a Tuesday. So that's kind of the theme of the book. 99% of the people that I found did something that helped me find them. They actually led me to them by putting too much out there.
Well, I do use social media quite a bit, yes, under both my real name and under Jesse. But I believe I take reasonable precautions, but we may have to talk more about that off the air. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so what is the number one thing people do that just sends you to their front door?
Facebook. Years and years ago, Andy Warhol said everyone wants their 15 minutes of fame, and it's true. People on social media don't think that somebody else can see what they're typing. I mean, usually you're at a coffee shop on your cell phone, or you're at home on your laptop, and you don't have somebody that's looking over your shoulder, seeing everything you're doing, when in actuality you do. A lot of people don't realize that the default settings on social media are public. So Facebook, for instance, anything that you post, unless you've gone in and set your privacy settings to friends only or private, anybody in the world can find you, see what you're posting, and not a day goes by that somebody that I'm looking for, or even somebody that I know, even worse, posts their address, their new phone number, posts a picture of them with their new car in front of their house with the address visible.
Or the license plate?
Yeah, those are all clues that, number one, a private investigator like me who's doing it for a good reason can use, but also some whack-doodle stalker can use against you. And people have just gotten so comfortable that they don't realize they're putting more out there than they should.
Well, I can tell you this, that I carefully monitor all the pictures that I post on social media, both as Jesse and under my real identity. And there's not a house number, a license plate, and the only phone number I give out is actually tied to a Skype account, which, as you know, could be from anywhere.
And that's brilliant, and more people should follow your example, but you and I both know that they don't. So the end of the book, last chapter or two, has really got just simple things. I mean, you don't have to stop posting. You don't have to suddenly become a hermit. You don't, dear gosh, please don't become afraid, because that's totally unnecessary. But there's just simple precautions you can take just to make sure that you're safe.
Now, you might be able to pick up the fact that I drive, if you know what make and model and color vehicle I drive, but I drive a very common vehicle. Judi, how many red vans are there in this country, red minivans?
Oh, several bazillion, probably.
Bingo. So the fact that I drive a red minivan, that isn't going to get you very far, is it? Not without a license plate.
Not terribly, no. Oh, and the license plate, that's another thing. People thought it was an internet rumor that there is a program that can spot your license plate and provide GPS coordinations on where you were, or coordinates. There really is, and yes, I have that program.
Well, you might be able to get me that way if you knew my license plate number to start with.
Right. And again, you're one of the smart ones that's not putting your license plate number out there. But it happens time and time again. And people just... I'm just trying to raise awareness on how to go about doing what you do without having people like me show up in the middle of the night.
Now, question. How many times has it been not the actual photo, but the reflection of the information in something in the photo, or a picture from an Amazon box that came in that somebody wants to show you in a YouTube video them opening because of whatever reason?
Oh, I was looking for a gal a couple weeks ago, and she posted a picture of her holding her jury summons in her hand. Name, address, zip code, everything. And it's like, are you serious? Did you really just do that? So, yeah, people just don't think. If you have been or have ever known a jealous girlfriend, that's kind of the best way to think about it, because if you are or were or knew a jealous girlfriend, they are going to go through every single thing that you or any of your friends have ever posted in the universe to get to the bottom of what you're doing. And that's kind of sort of what I do for a living.
I can believe it. It sounds fascinating. Now, have you ever had to create a fake social media profile to friend someone to get at that information, or are they usually silly enough to post it publicly?
Do you know, I don't believe in cover stories or lying, number one, because I'm way too lazy and I could never keep facts like that straight. So I'm just out there as me. And a lot of times what I have done in the past is I will actually send the person I'm looking for a friend request. And believe it or not, a bunch of times they'll friend me. Don't know me from Adam, don't have any mutual friends, but they'll go ahead and friend me. And all of a sudden, boom, I've got access to everything. And if that doesn't work, I use my 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon rule, which is I will go through their friends list and I will friend one of their friends. Because the minute that I'm in with one of their friends or a family member, any photo, any tag, anything, any interaction they've had with that person, I've automatically got access to.
Now, full disclosure, I did accept your friend request on Facebook under Jesse Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the only Facebook account I accept friend requests on right now, because my husband is out of the country. And when he's out of the country, I don't accept friend requests unless I know you in real life.
Exactly. And oh my gosh, if I could teach people that, I would be, well, probably out of business. But I'd also be really, really much happier, because that's the way you ought to take it. If you don't know them in real life, you really don't know.
Now, that being said, under my real name and real identity, I do have a couple of people I've never met in person, but I've gotten to know them through other people over and spent a year or more getting to know them online. And the only reason I haven't actually met that person in person is probably geography.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a friend who lives in New Zealand. In fact, she's another host here on the show whose show I produce. It's Dr. Judi Moore, and she hosts Conversations in Science. And she has a PhD in astronomy, and I talk to Doc quite frequently. I'm either getting background information on how a nuclear reactor works, or what is an EMP device, or some other little thing that I can bring to my other show, Jesse's POV. And so I communicate with her under both profiles, which now I just gave you a clue.
You did. And I might just accept that as a challenge and let you know.
All I ask is that you not reveal it publicly and you email me, because you do have my email address.
I do.
Because, like I said, my reasons for hiding are for my personal safety.
Mm-hmm.
But feel free and track me down, because I'd like to know how well I covered my tracks. Now, there is something. Judi wrote a book called Hidden Traps. It's a writer's guide to social media, online traps of social media writers' platforms. And the biggest thing she found, her biggest trap, wasn't Facebook statuses. It was the who is I can search, because almost every writer has a website. And did you know that when someone buys a domain name, they have to put in their name, their address, their phone number, their email address, and all that information?
Yes, unless they go through a third party that handles it for them.
Or if they click the box that says privacy protection, please, that information is publicly available unless you've either gone through a third party or check the box that says privacy protection, please.
Right. And that gets back to the basic theme that people don't check that little box. People don't go all the way down. And even when you're on Facebook or social media or Amazon or any of a myriad of sites that you go to all the time, there is the end user's licensing agreement. So I always tell people you've been EULA'd, because somewhere in there, way down at the bottom in all the pages that you scroll through and say, yeah, I've read it, I accept it, and nobody ever does, there is always a little clause or a little sentence that says, oh, and by the way, we reserve the right to sell your information to third-party suppliers. Well, those third-party suppliers are the people that I contract with and pay a healthy sum of money every month to get information on you.
Yes, but how many average people are going to go pay that healthy sum of money?
They're not. Which is, and again, I usually use my great big super duper PI sites for people that don't do a lot on social media that I have to find because they're a witness in a case or they're a defendant or they've absconded with the kids. And I also use it to double check the veracity of the information that I find online. And 9 times out of 10, I really don't need it, because what I can pick up on people online just from what they've posted is more than enough to lead me right to them.
Now, how many times have you caught people by those check-in at your location things that everybody's so fond of doing?
Oh my gosh. Too many to count. And one other little thing to put out there when you're saying, yes, I'm at so-and-so concert or I'm at so-and-so restaurant. Again, if you've left your profile public and somebody's already pulled up your address, they know that you're at a concert and you're not going to be at your home for a couple of hours. And, gee, what a great time to rob their house because they're not there. And just another little tidbit that people don't think about.
That is quite true. Now, like I said, you might be able to track me down through one of those sites that you pay those healthy sums of money to. But I'm gonna be willing to bet that without the use of one of those sites, I'm gonna be pretty hard. And yes, as long as you agree to privately email me the information if you manage to track it down, I will say go for it, because I'd love to know how well I've insulated myself.
Challenge accepted. We'll do that. Soon as we're done quaffing our coffee, I'll do a quick hunt.
Sounds like fun. Sounds like fun.
In fact, I did that with Rick Robinson last week. We were chatting and talking, and he said, "Oh, well, I thought you were going to hunt down my address so you could send me a copy of the book." And I said, "Oh, I didn't know you wanted me to do that." And while we were talking, I just did a couple of clicks online, not on any of my fancy sites. And I gave him his address, and he said, "Ah, that's me." And of course, he now has a hard copy of my book because I found him.
Well, I'll accept the Kindle version and be quite happy.
Okay, deal.
Although I do keep a post office box 30 miles away from my house for such problems.
Okay. Taking note, 30 miles away.
That's give or take a few. But yes, I do have a P.O. box that, should I need Jessie to have a physical mailing address, she has one.
Cool. See, but again, you are the exception to the rule.
Well, my first husband was United States Special Forces, and he taught me well.
Mm-hmm.
Because he certainly didn't want to be tracked on social media, but he also didn't want to have to never engage in social media. And I will give you one other tidbit. My real Facebook profile isn't under my real name.
Oh, good girl.
The first name's right. The last name's wrong.
See, that's brilliant. You are one of the rare breed that I couldn't find, or just using normal methods that any stalker could use. So I'm almost going to bet that you're going to be pretty well insulated.
Well, thank you. I do like to think so. Now, under Jessie, I do share a lot publicly, but it's usually comments about what's going on in the news. It's my latest stuff for my show. It's, I found this awesome audio clip and I want you to see the whole source. Now, I will tell you, I do not use a VPN, but that usually takes more of a hacker to ferret out that information. Well, I don't always use a VPN. When I'm visiting some of those dodgy news sites I like to frequent, like North Korea or Iran, yes, I use a VPN.
Good girl.
If I'm going to Sky News in the UK, I could care less.
Right.
No offense. They're not a problem. Going to KCNA, the North Korean news site, yeah, thank you, VPN on.
Yes. As a matter of fact, one of my friends uses a VPN all the time, and it was kind of funny because after the last terrorist thing that happened in England, he told me he got a message from Facebook saying, "Do you want to mark yourself safe?" Because his VPN showed that he was in London, and actually he's in Arkansas. So it was kind of funny.
So what are the 3 biggest tips you would give people not to be found?
Tip number 1. Don't think that the whole world needs to know what you're doing. Yes, it's interesting to you. Yes, it's interesting to your friends. And yes, your grandmother's coleslaw recipe was yummy. But the entire world does not need to know your plans, your everyday movements. Keep it much lighter and just share with actual trusted friends. Number 2, go in on every bit of social media that you're on and check your privacy settings. You don't want somebody looking over your shoulder. And if people just remember that there is technically somebody looking over their shoulder at everything they type, maybe they'll think twice. Number 3, which doesn't apply to you and hopefully not to most of your listeners, is don't do anything stupid and end up in court. Court websites are a wealth of information for me to get addresses, info, birth dates, and everything else on somebody. If you've gotten a speeding ticket, if you've gotten into a lawsuit with a neighbor because you were mad at their dog barking in the middle of the night and you filed papers in county court, boom, I've got your information. That's all open, it's all available, and anybody with $5 can go down to the courthouse and request a copy of it. And they've got everything on you. Government sources are huge places of information for me. From the assessor's office, which will not only tell me your address, it will tell me how much you paid for your house, and in some cases it will even lead me to a diagram of your house so I know where your bedroom is, to utility companies, to hospitals. All of them have your personal information up for sale, and I buy it on a regular basis.
Yes, but like I said, in the social media realm, without using one of those high-end paid-for-information sites, I like to think I'm pretty well insulated. So, like I said before, there's no photographs online under any of my profiles that show my address, any phone number other than the one attached to my Skype account, or my exact actual location. I've gone through my smartphone and turned off location services on all but a very select few apps. And some of them I turn off and on as I need them.
And again, you are wise counsel to so many people. You'd be amazed at how many people don't do that.
Angry Birds does not need my location any more than Candy Crush does. Now,
oh, come on. Candy Crush needs to know where you are. Come on.
Now, the Weather Channel, I might let you have my location. But Candy Crush, not a chance.
Yep.
Because I know they sell this information. Like I said, I'd like to think I was well trained.
You were, and you're taking every precaution that you need to take, which is wise. And more people would be smart to follow your lead. What breaks my heart, and I've seen it happen time and time again, is wives who are leaving an abusive situation. And they'll go and they'll get a restraining order. Well, as you and I both know, a restraining order is only a piece of paper. And I have seen it way too many times where the husband will ferret out where she is. And generally it's through stupid stuff that she or one of her friends has posted on social media.
Womp womp, fail.
Yep.
So what, for that abusive spouse leaving somebody, other than to double check all the social media, what is the one other piece of advice you would give them?
Do not, and 9 out of 10 women who have left a situation, especially if they have kids, move to another city. The first thing they do is you have to get a utility account if you want to have, lights and power and internet. 9 out of 10 times they will put the account in their kid's name, thinking, oh, well, nobody's going to look for, 10-year-old little Johnny. But the whack-doodle ex-husband will. And it's just a matter of hunting down the kid's name in an area where you think the kid is, and up it's going to pop.
Wow, I would never have thought of putting a utility bill in a 10-year-old's name.
A lot of women do. Well, And the really not smart ones that have trashed their credit also eventually end up trashing the future credit of their kids, but that's a whole nother story. But they think they're being wise, and it's like, oh, I'll do that. Or I've had guys that I was looking for that make sure the house is in not just their wife's name, but their wife's maiden name. As though somebody couldn't go in and get marriage records and find out what the wife's maiden name was before she hooked up with him and know to look for the house under her name. But they think they're being oh so very smart because, well, nothing's in my name, so we're good. Well, yeah, I can still find you.
What about somebody who goes to that nth degree? Because I do know someone that did this, and they buy their house through a business or a trust.
Depending on how they set it up. A trust is better than a business. Because a trust generally, I'm going to underline the word generally, doesn't have to be registered anywhere. It's a bunch of papers usually in a lawyer's safe somewhere. So that's probably as smart as you can get. Doing it through a business, if you're smart enough to, and this is a long drawn-out procedure, you would set up your business in another state. You would incorporate in Connecticut or in Nevada. Those are two that don't normally list the incorporator's address information. And or the registered agent would be something like the corporation company. That, if that corporation were to buy the house in your new location, then you've insulated yourself pretty good.
Okay.
But you'd have to remember to do that with your car as well, because I can track you by your vehicle registration. And that's something else that in a majority of states is readily available to the public through the Department of Motor Vehicles.
Really? So if you knew what exact make and model of vehicle I drove and had my name, you could go to my home state and say, I want this vehicle registration information.
Yep. And cash is king, and I would pay them a fee, and they would fax it right to me.
Wow. I never thought about my vehicle registration. But then I'm pretty careful about not posting my license plate or VIN number or anything stupid of that nature online.
I found one guy because somehow or another his insurance agent had posted his insurance policy for his car on Google. Or it was accessible. Somehow the agent had put it on a wrong site. And you know, once something's on the internet, it's on the internet forever. And it was a matter of going like to page 10 on Google with this guy's name. And up popped, it was a quote that the guy's agent had done. And it had the vehicle make, it had the VIN number, it had his address at the time, and I was 2 steps closer to finding the guy. So I just ran the VIN number, got the current plate, got photos of where he'd been picked up by traffic cameras. I think it was a camera in a Walmart parking lot. And so I instantly knew the neighborhood he was in. I knew where he shopped, and within a few hours' time, I had him.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. Now, unfortunately, with everything, there are bills. So we need to take a commercial break, and we will see you on the other side.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
All right, thank y'all for hanging in there with us while we took that commercial break and paid those radio station bills. Yes, private investigator Judi Sheeks is still with me. And we'll reveal whether she tracked down my real identity, because if you've ever read my bio, you know that Jessie is an alias that I use for my own personal protection. We'll reveal that in just a few moments. So, Judi?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to track me down?
I was able to get incredibly frustrated just using social media clues. You are an odd creature indeed, because you have taken every one and more of the protocols and tips that I recommend to people oh so seriously, and I could not be more proud of you.
Well, thank you. So, without pulling out, now you didn't go so far as to pull out your high-end private investigator tools.
Correct.
You did just the average social media stuff and the stuff the average person would have access to.
Right. And I did my very best drunken stalker go to the 6th page of Google and basically got bupkis. You have covered your tracks brilliantly.
Well, thank you. I take that as quite the compliment, because not only does my life depend on it, the lives of those I love and care about that protect and serve our nation, some of our nation's best, their lives depend on it.
Absolutely. And you have done a stellar job. You really should give a course to people on what not to do online, because you are just about as well insulated as I've seen.
Well, thank you. But am I active on social media?
You are. You are. And again, that's the whole premise of the book. If you're smart, if you take precautions. I think I told someone a while back that not using protection while you're on the internet is tantamount to having unprotected sex. You know, in this day and age, it's just something you have to do. And you have done it brilliantly, my dear.
Well, I thank you. Now, I must say that Jessie's bio was crafted with the help of a couple of writer friends, because, well, I'm an avid, voracious reader. I'm no writer. I can string a couple of sentences together, but typing and sitting there pounding the keyboard for hours on end trying to craft a story is, well, beyond my skill set. We'll leave it at that. It feels like punishment to me. Now, you put me behind this microphone, and that little on-air lights up. I'll tell you all about a lot of things. Or I'll ask an author about writing. Now, was there anything that you kept out of your book to make your life easier as a PI that, and I'm not asking you to reel it, but were there those couple little tips and tricks you maybe kept close to the vest so you could track someone down who'd read your book?
You know, there might be one or two. I'm not totally stupid. So, and no, I love you to the moon and back, but I'm not going to tell you what they are either. But for the most part, I I think I put in there what just the average person could do that would make it so much easier for them to sleep at night.
Well, I sleep soundly every night because as you tried to find me and tried to find my address, you didn't find my address or any phone number other than my Skype phone number, did you?
Correct.
Now, obviously with the right PI tools, and you even admitted this off air, if you were being paid to find me, you'd pull out all the stops. But most of your average wackadoodles aren't going to pay that kind of money.
No, somebody would really have to have a serious axe to grind with you to plunk down big bucks to find you.
Well, I'd like to think that I don't have anybody with that big an axe to grind.
And that's another thing. It used to be years and years and years ago, back in the bad old days, and a couple of my colleagues who are also private investigators were used by somebody to find someone else that actually they really shouldn't have helped them to find, because one PI in particular helped a guy find a gal in California, and he stalked her and killed her. So,
ouch.
Yeah. So most PIs like myself, number one, we're licensed, and our license would be at risk if we just hunted somebody down on a whim. We actually have to have a valid reason for finding them. But I have people call me, I would say once every few months, and you just kind of get a bad vibe. And it's like, so you want to find this person because why? You know, and they really can't give you a straight answer. And I generally tell them, sorry, can't help you. So I'm not going to say that there's not going to be some determined whack-doodle out there that's going to try to hire somebody, but I am going to say, as a matter of course, most PIs would not do it. Unless, of course, you scammed some little old lady out of, a couple $100,000 and you were in hiding because of that.
Well, I tend to think I've got good moral character, and that's not something I'm likely to do. And I don't want to end up on your radar. I'm happy in my anonymity.
Good thinking. So I will check you off the list of future criminals to hunt down then.
Most likely, because there's one, I enjoy my freedom quite a bit, thank you. Two, you can't have a concealed carry permit, and I'm a very big Second Amendment advocate, if you have certain criminal backgrounds. So I'm more than likely going to stay on the right side of the law.
I think it's safe to say that if you and I ever do meet, it will just be for coffee, like today, and that's so much better.
Oh, I love having people in the coffee shop, and that's one of my favorite ways to meet people. So I'm glad to know that I am essentially safe online without somebody with a serious axe to grind. And I'd like to think nobody's got that big of an axe or that much disposable cash on their hands.
True. And if they ever do, you now know the right person that can help you hide. So we're good.
Oh, of course. I've got several people on that list. My first husband's friends will be more than happy to lend a hand as well.
There you go.
Nation's best.
You totally can't beat that, my dear.
All right, so you went self-published with your book, and this is something I normally bring up much earlier, but we're having too much fun discussing this stuff in your book. What made you go self-publish versus traditional?
Just the need to get it done really quick. The book had been ruminating around for probably 3 or 4 years because of just a lot of personal stuff going on with me and my now late husband. And I finally sat down one night and decided, by gosh, I'm going to finish it. And I got it done. It looked pretty good, I thought. I still think it's a pretty nice, quick, easy read and just something I wanted to get out there. And at that point, I thought, do I want to start beating down the door of publishers? And do I want to take 6-8 months and deal with a bunch of rejection letters? I don't deal with rejection well, by the way. And someone told me, well, go to Amazon, go self-publish. And I did, and it was so much easier than I ever thought it could be. So now I'm hooked, and I'll probably write more. And just for a first-time little bitty book, putting it out there, for me, it was the way to go.
All right, so we've covered your top 3 tips on what not to do online. We've covered why you chose self-publishing. Is there anything you wanted to bring up we haven't covered yet?
Golly, you've stumped me. No, you've been wonderful.
Well, I have 1 or 2 more questions for you. Have you ever had that person that was so well insulated you couldn't find them?
To be totally honest, in close to a quarter century of doing this, there has never, underline, exclamation point, asterisks, bolded, everything else, never been anyone I haven't found.
What's the longest it's ever taken you to find somebody?
1.5 years.
Dog with a bone, much?
Dog with a bone, much. And that was one that was total happenstance. I thought I knew where this gal was, and her family was hiding her. And I just happened to be in a department store standing in line, and her mom was in line 2 people ahead of me, and walked around the cashier's stand to the cashier, handed her the keys to the house, said, I'm going to be out late, called her by name, gave her a kiss, and left. So I quickly sat down all of my items, ran out to the car, called the attorney. I said, you will never believe where this young lady is. The process server met me at the door. We both walked into the line, got in line as though we were going to pay, and I stood there while he served her with papers. And she promptly said, how the bleep did you find me? And I was more than happy to smile, and I said, your mom gave you up. I'm sure Thanksgiving at her house was really enjoyable that year.
Well, I'd say that sometimes I say I'd rather be lucky than good. And I'd say on that day, luck was smiling on you.
Luck and women's intuition really both go hand in hand in finding a lot of people. When I'm looking for profiles, or when I'm looking for information to find somebody, it's one of those, I don't know how to describe it. It's almost a sixth sense that I have of digging through information, and I'd rather have way more information than I need than not enough. And just being able to kind of have something catch my eye that leads me to people. Now, I do have a few people that I have not found, but those are also people that nobody's paid me for. So,
well, you didn't find me?
No, and again, if anyone would like to send $1 million, I'll be more than happy to bro it. No, kidding, only kidding.
Hey, I've done a pretty good job covering my 6.
You have done good. Your 6 is safe, my friend.
And I have publicly said I live on a United States military base. So you'd have to go through a couple extra hoops to get to my front door.
And it's doubtful that anybody would. So, but you could take the smarts that you have shown, and as insulated as you are, and what you know, and you could probably live in a nice little neighborhood someplace. And I would almost bet money that you would be pretty much safe wherever you go. So again, you are one of the odd ones.
Well, I take that as compliment, a huge compliment, because like I said a few moments ago, it's not only my life that depends on this. My information has been put out there by Daesh or ISIS or ISIL, whatever you want to call those rat bags, not once, but twice on a kill list. And I'm still drawing air.
Yeah.
And I didn't take the threat lightly.
No, as well you shouldn't. And not to leave any of your listeners or anyone else with the impression that, oh my gosh, everyone's on a kill list. But at the risk of damaging future business for me, I really wish more people would take it as seriously as you do. Because I'd far prefer to deal with people on mutual telephone calls and radio shows and coffee shop visits than on a professional level.
Well, it's been a fantastic time having you in the coffee shop, and as I give everyone the opportunity at the end of an episode, why don't you share the social media contact information that you would like to give out?
Well, if you want to reach me, I am at Judiana on Twitter. I have a blog. It's judianablog.com. And, of course, the book, the all-important book, How the Bleep Did You Find Me, is still available on Kindle, on Amazon, and I think I even saw it on barnesandnoble.com. So it's about 100 pages. It's an easy read and a fun read. And if anyone wants to take a look at it, pick it up, they can be just almost as smart as you are.
Ooh, did I add a new level to that smartness?
You did good. You did good, Jess.
Well, thank you. And for anyone who wants to track me down, good luck getting the information out of social media, but I will happily tell you where to find those social media profiles. I am on Twitter at Jessie's POV, and you can always email me at the station, Jessie, Jessie, at KLRNRadio.com. And as always, I am going to grab How the Bleep Did You Find Me off the table, pour myself a fresh cup of coffee, and settle down with a great book. And I will see you folks next time in the coffee shop.